Our next speaker, Anant Agarwal, is an absolutely amazing luminary, as this next minute will tell you. He is the CEO of EDX, an online learning destination founded by Harvard and MIT. Anant taught the first EDX course on circuits and electronics from MIT, which drew 155,000 students from 162 countries. He has served as the director of MIT's Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory and as a professor of electrical engineering and computer science at MIT. He is also a successful serial entrepreneur, having co-founded several companies, including Telera Corporation, which created the Tile multi-core processor and virtual machine works. Anant's won several prizes: the Morris Wilks Prize for Computer Architecture, MIT Smullen and Jameson Prizes for teaching, and also holds the Guinness World Record for the largest microphone array, and is an author of the textbook Foundation of Analog and Digital Electronics. Scientific American selected his work on organic computing as one of the 10 world-changing ideas in 2011, and he was named in the Forbes list of the top 15 education innovators in 2012. Anant is a pioneer in computer architecture, is a member of the National Academy of Engineering, a fellow of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, and a fellow of the ACM. He hacks on WebSim and online circuits laboratory in his spare time. As you've heard, he also walks on water. No, he didn't go to IIT Bombay. He actually went to IIT Madras, and he holds a PhD from Stanford. Please welcome Anant Agarwal.
Thank you, Anupam, and thank you for having me here. It's really my pleasure to talk to you about some of the work that we are doing to reinvent education. Let me see if I can find a, there we go. So education certainly could use change. We've had our education system pretty much the same for hundreds of years. I think the last big innovation was the textbook in the middle of the 14th century. Around that time, the textbook came out and really revolutionized how education was done. And if you look at the slide here, we should get this, look at the slide here. This is a classroom from MIT from about 50 years ago. And if you go to a classroom today, you'll see about the same kind of class. And things really haven't changed in a substantial manner, but everything around us has changed. Our children have changed, technology has changed. Every field has been completely transformed by technology. This is my daughter. She's 16 now, and this is how she likes to learn. And imagine taking kids who have grown up with technology and then drag them to a classroom when they come in the first year of college and make them sit in a classroom of 100 and go through 1-hour lectures. When they've grown up on 5-minute YouTube videos, it is completely unthinkable. They're completely used to texting and tweeting and Snapchatting and WhatsApping, and then suddenly here, it's a completely different world. The cost of the whole education system has also gone absolutely berserk. While everything else gets cheaper and cheaper because of technology and better quality, the quality of education hasn't changed substantially in hundreds of years. And the cost has been completely skyrocketing. The total national debt, educational debt, is $1.3 trillion. In other words, that's the total amount of money in the US that students who graduated from college owe because of debts and whether it's loans from the government or other forms of loans. And, and the other thing is people graduate and then they don't get a job. And there's a burgeoning industry of these boot camps, such as Hack Reactor or General Assembly, where after paying $200,000 for an education, then you go and spend another $20,000 to do a boot camp for 3 months before you get a job. So our entire education system can really use some kind of rethinking and reimagining. Edx Org is a nonprofit that was founded by Harvard and MIT to really reimagine the world of education. So you can go to edx.org, and you can take this fantastic free courses. Imagine free. In a world of education, free is a word you don't often see. So you can take free courses from some of the best universities in the world, certainly MIT, Harvard, Berkeley, University of Texas System, Texas Austin, a number of other universities from all over the world. From India, our partners include IIT Bombay, IIM Bangalore, and BITS Pilani. So these universities create just amazing courses. You go to Edx.org and sign on in a few seconds, and you can take these courses for free. It is truly, truly amazing. The number of people that come in to take these courses, really, the numbers are absolutely staggering and goes to the heart of our mission. So as a nonprofit, our mission was threefold. Expand access to education for people around the world. So we certainly believe that education is a right. Everybody should have access to it, much like the air we breathe. So how do we increase access? How do we make education improve in quality? How do we get outcomes to be better? How do we get the cost to come down? How do we use research and the big data from education to improve the quality of education at the same time? Here are some of the numbers so far. So we were founded about 3.5 years ago. And today, we have 5 million students from every single country in the world. In terms of course enrollments, 16 million courses have been taken on edX in the space of 3 years. We have 600 courses, and growing by a factor of between 4 and 5 every year in multiple languages, including Hindi. Shockingly, our first course in Hindi was actually not created out of India, but by Australia National University. And so in a number of languages, we have 90 institutional partners. And the same courses and content is also being used on campus to rethink how education is done on campuses in a blended model of education on campuses. So these are big numbers. And so we have students from all over the world taking these courses. From India alone, we have more than 500,000 students from India taking our courses. After the United States, India is the biggest country. There's absolute thirst for educational content from within India. The numbers are pretty staggering within courses as well. You heard Anupam talk about big enrollment. So I taught the first course on edX in circuits and electronics, and I was pretty honest. I talked about prerequisites being calculus and differential equations and so on, and when we launched it online, we figured we'd get 100 students. We were totally shocked. We had 10,000 students sign up in the first 1 hour of posting the course. No marketing budget. Before we knew it, we had 155,000 students taking a MIT hard course. And I'll show you some of the technologies in the course. I mean, this is not an online course from the 80s or 90s. These are high-tech, highly engaging, high-quality courses. And I'll show you some of the concepts that we use. 7,200 students passed an MIT hard circuits course. Now, these are big numbers. 155,000 is a big number. It is bigger than the total number of alumni of MIT in its 150-year history. 7,200 is also a big number. That number, if I were to teach at MIT, so I teach this at least when I was teaching in person on campus, I had about a few hundred students a year. I would have to teach at MIT for 40 years in order to graduate 7,200 students. So these are very big numbers. Now, despite the big numbers, I think what is particularly exciting for us is the individual stories of all the students. So they keep writing to us through Facebook or Tumblr and telling us the stories, and the stories are absolutely spectacular. One of my favorites is on the top left-hand corner. That is Khushbakht. So she's from Lahore in Pakistan. So she wrote to us telling us that she was in school and studying and so on. In 9th standard, she was taken out of school and she got married. And so she stopped her schooling. And then she said her husband's very liberal and is really encouraging of her. And so she's now gone back into her education, and she's taking courses on edX. In fact, she's taking a course from Mike Sandel, who is a philosophy professor at Harvard, on justice. So the stories of people are absolutely, absolutely spectacular. I could stand here and go giving you more and more stories. So we use online learning technology. We built a platform called Open Edx to create online learning for people all over the world. And using that, we're also improving the quality of education. So let me talk about how we think, in addition to access to everybody, how do we provide free education or very low-cost education to everybody in the world? How do we improve the quality? So let me give you some examples of what a course might look like. So if you go to the edX and you sign up for a course, this is what the dashboard will look like. This here is a course from Wellesley College. It's an all-women's college. They're an edX partner. It's a humanities course. It's a course called Was Alexander Great? And in this course, here's a professor talking about his professor goes into his backyard in the snow, and he trudges through the snow to dramatize what it must have been like for Alexander and his armies to be crossing through the Hindu Kush Mountains. So but these are not a professor standing in front of a classroom and lecturing to 40 students. This is much, much richer than what you might find in a classroom. Here you see the professor really dramatizing and helping students understand. Most of the students in this class have not seen snow. And so here he explains to them how really walking through snow is not easy, and how hard it must have been for Alexander's armies to trudge through the Hindu Kush Mountains. So you see a ribbon out there. That ribbon is what we call a learning sequence, where we don't just, in the platform, you just don't lecture the students for an hour. So what we do is we interleave short videos, 5, 6, 7, 10-minute videos with interactive exercises. So this form of learning is called active learning, where students watch a video or a couple of videos, and then they engage in some activity where the knowledge is tested through some finger exercises. And this form of learning is called active learning. And active learning has been shown to improve learning outcomes. It was created by, the concept was first studied by Craig and Lockhart in '72. This is one of the landmark papers in the field. So we are applying active learning concepts in the platform and enabling professors to teach in a way that will improve student outcomes. So active learning is one critical concept. The second concept is much more easy to grasp that improves learning outcomes. That's called instant feedback. So I went to IIT Madras between '77 and '82. And I promise you there's still, as I mentioned in a panel recently, I promise you there's still some homeworks that I turned in which I've never seen, never graded, I never ever saw them again. And even in, you get feedback weeks later if you're lucky. So what we do on the platform is we use computing technology to provide rich assignments and grade them using computers automatically. When you're teaching 150,000 students in the class, you cannot be sitting and grading by hand. Everything is completely computerized, completely automatic. All the grading is automatic. So I'll show you a video here. So in this video, this is a question from Michael Seema. He's a chemistry professor at MIT. It's a course in solid-state chemistry. And he's going to ask students to write a balanced equation. And we can grade all kinds of things, including equations and so on and so forth. So let me see if this video works. There you go. So student is asked a question. And that's OK. So pretend in your mind's eye that the cursor moves and the student enters a chemical equation. They get it wrong. They get a red check mark. They keep entering it 2 or 3 times, get it wrong, and finally they get it right. And when they get it right, they get a little green check mark in that box. They get this instant feedback. That instant feedback is incredible for students. It brings an element of gamification into the whole learning process. And students tell us that they go to bed at night dreaming of this green check mark. So instant feedback has also been shown to improve learning outcomes and also engages students in a tremendously positive manner. In fact, the green check mark of edX has reached meme status on the web. My kids tell me this is a big deal. This is a big deal meme character, and this is apparently a big deal on the web. So instant feedback is also a big part of the platform enabling learning outcomes. The next thing we can do is create virtual labs. A lot of people ask me, oh, but how do you do laboratories? So we have virtual labs on the platform. And I'll show you an example from my circuits course. We have all kinds of labs. We have physics labs, chemistry labs, circuits labs. People build DNA sequences and so on. All of this stuff can be done online, much as you can learn. 95% of learning how to fly happens with flight simulators. So we can bring simulation technology into the classroom and build virtual labs. So in this example here, in the next slide, I'll show you in a second if the video works. The learner is going to be playing with filters. And as part of the filters, they'll choose some music and apply music to a filter and actually listen to how music sounds completely virtually and online. So let's see if this works. There you go. So this is a student listening to how the filter sounds. Now the student changes the parameters, builds a different kind of filter. So notice they're built, for those of you, how many of you have taken electrical engineering? Many of you. So this is a low-pass filter. So here, how many of you went to a university where, as part of your design in a lab, you actually built a filter and actually listened to how music sounded through the filter? 2. Here, 155,000 students had the opportunity. Everybody had the opportunity to go and do this, completely using computation and cloud computing. And so this is an example of how we can bring technology to really improve how learning happens. And what is really funny is that they like the music so much that they're playing it again. So here was a student who sent us an email, part of the discussion forums, where he talked about he couldn't get the problem right. But he said, I was feeling like a rock star with the reggae stuff playing. So students can choose what music they want, just to show that we can bring all kinds of gaming technologies and online experience to help them learn better. And so we keep just constantly hearing from students how engaged they are by doing things like this. And this is not just fun and games. Research studies have shown that when you engage students, so for example, a study by Mayer in 2003 showed that when you did multimedia animation as part of the narrative, it improves student outcomes. So this is not just fun and games, but it actually has been proven to improve learning outcomes. And that's the result. That's how you measure learning quality. So as we put all of this together, and we offer online courses that can be taken by students all over the world, I'd love to dream a little bit here. Okay? Can we reimagine the university? So we have this technology, online learning technology, and people anywhere in the world can take these fantastic courses from some of the best professors in the world. I mean, just imagine. You can go to edX, and you can learn about Ruby on Rails and software as a service from Armando Fox and David Patterson at Berkeley. How many of you are from UC Berkeley and taken a course from Patterson or Armando Fox? I see 2 of them here. Imagine every kid anywhere in the world could have the same experience in Patterson's class. He's one of the greatest teachers at UC Berkeley. You could go and take, like Kushbakt, a course on justice from Michael Sandel, one of the leading philosophers of our time. Or you can go and take this incredible course on, point your kids at an incredible course on Scratch programming from Harvey Mudd College. This is to introduce young kids into coding, 5, 10 years of age, and get them started. Frankly, all kids should learn coding. It's almost like the 4th R, the reading, writing, arithmetic, and programming. And so you can have access, kids all over can have access. But the question is, we have our universities. Can we reimagine the university if a technology like this is available? So I'll give you one example. So I've blogged about this, and if you Google Unbundled and Huffington Post, or my name, you will find my blog in the Huffington Post. So what I talk about there is how might we rethink the university, which really hasn't changed in hundreds of years. I'll give you one example. Everything about university is completely bundled. So we go to college when we're 18 years of age, and we spend 4 or 5 years in college. It's a bundled program and bundled in time. Similarly, content is bundled. So I go to university, and I listen to the professor. They've usually written the textbook. The TAs come from the same university. The content is from the same university. Everything is from the same university. The labs are from the same university. And it's all bundled. But can we imagine a system where we unbundle the university? Could that result in improved quality and improved cost as well? So the closest analogy I can come to was when I first came to the US in 1982. How many of you remember the boxy pink AT&T telephone from the early 80s? How many of you remember that little boxy phone? Many of you remember that. You're aging, you're telegraphing your age as well. So there, you went to AT&T for your long-distance calling. Does anybody remember what it cost to call India per minute in those days? $5. There you go. $5 for the first minute and $3 for the remaining minutes. Can you imagine that? $3 to $5 per minute to call India? I mean, today, it's virtually free. So in those days, everything was bundled. AT&T gave you long-distance service. They gave you a boxy phone. They did the billing. To call, it was 25 cents per minute long distance. If your phone service went dead, you called. When everything was AT&T, you called 411, it was AT&T. All bundled. But what happened? So in the late 80s, everything got unbundled. Today, Sprint runs a bunch of optical fibers across the country and transmits a lot of the bandwidth and the bits. Somebody else does the service. And a whole bunch of providers provide phones. You hardly ever buy phones from your provider. You can go and pick up any phone. And the unbundling is much more prominent in other countries where you can buy SIM cards separate from the phone. It's all unbundled. And you saw the dramatic changes in cost and quality when that unbundling happened. So can we unbundle the university? So first thing is, can we unbundle? Can we rethink the university by unbundling time? Why 4 years? Imagine if I could go to university for 2 years. Why 4 years? Imagine if I could spend the first year in high school taking courses online, high-quality courses, and those courses would count for university credit. Then I go to campus for 2 years for the campus experience. Then I left campus and went to a company and worked and became a continuous learner for life and got a subscription back to the university or to wherever and take online courses and become a continuous learner for the rest of your lives. So the first year and fourth year got feathered out before and after, and you spend 2 years in a university. Your tuition would be halved. Which is just a simple example to think about. And this is not just a pipe dream. We've actually launched a similar program, Edx. It's called Global Freshman Academy. So just imagine you can get first year of college on Edx for half in-state tuition at Arizona State University. So ASU and Edx have launched Global Freshman Academies. You can go to Edx, point your children at it. Edx and ASU are launching a full first year's worth of courses online, a dozen courses in general education. You can take those courses for free. If you don't want a degree, it's free. You can get an entire first-year education for free from any country in the world. You can pay $45, and for $45, you can sign up on the verified track, and as part of that, we'll give you a proctored exam, which is virtual proctoring, completely online. So if you're Rajesh in Madhya Pradesh, you can go and take these courses and sign up for $45, get a proctored exam, and if you pass, if you choose to, you can come to Edx and you can pay half in-state Arizona tuition, $600 per course, and get credit on an Arizona State University transcript. This is revolutionary. So suddenly, you could be Rajesh in Madhya Pradesh, and you could have 1 year's worth of transcript credit for half in-state tuition at Arizona State. And that's just the start. We just pegged it at half in-state tuition, $600 a course. But our hope is that if technology can help us reduce the cost, we'll keep reducing the cost. Why 1 year? Maybe we can do more. So this is one example of unbundling content. So now a student can go and take first year from one university and then continue on from another university. So this has been very well received. And as you can see, a lot of the press have talked about how this thing could be a revolutionary concept. So with that, I'd like to pause, and happy to take any questions from the audience.
Thank you, Anant. We have a few trending questions here. Earlier in the day, we had Sal Khan speak here as well. So what is the difference between the edX approach and Khan Academy areas like teaching?
So what is the difference between edX approach and Khan Academy? First of all, I'm a huge fan of Salman Khan. It turns out that he was my student at MIT. And I hope, and in this case, it's not a student that does the instructor proud. I hope I do him proud. I'm just a huge fan of Salman Khan. In fact, in my course that I taught, I used his style of creating videos, and I've created a name for that called KSV, Khan Style Video. So we've really been inspired by Sal Khan, but what we're doing is somewhat different. So our focus is on creating complete courses in a wide variety of discipline by partnering with universities, eventually leading to credit and certifications and so on. So if you're a software engineer, you can take a course on Java programming on edX and get a certificate from IIT Bombay. You can take a course on IT and management from IIM Bangalore and get a certificate. Khan Academy is a different style, where if you're a student and you have a problem, you can go in there and you can look at a video and understand how to solve the problem. So it's really similar kinds of the same basic technology and concept, but really the way we package it up really up-levels it all the way to courses, and now we're packaging it up to entire degree programs completely online.
So you talked about reimagining the university. Does that mean our traditional colleges are dead in 10 years?
So I hear that question a lot as well, and people have cartooned me as well, and the American Association of Professors, they had a sort of cartoons, and they showed a number of people, cartooning me and others. But I think the way to think about this is that it's not that universities will disappear. Really, I think universities should transform themselves. And here's the technology that can help universities evolve. And what will the university look like 10 or 20 years from now? I have no idea. As you can see in, maybe the slide pops up, universities have begun to think about how they can reimagine themselves using online technology. One approach might be that students can go to universities for 2 years or 1 year or 3 years. They can use as little or as much of the university as they like. So here's an example of MIT's thinking about it. Here's a screenshot I found on an MIT, on the MIT campus, thinking about should we reimagine the 4-year degree program. So even MIT is thinking about how should we rethink the university. So I think universities will change. I don't quite know how.
So is technology advanced enough to grade descriptive answers like essays and things like that?
So I gave you several examples of technology grading circuits programs and waveforms and graphs, and we can do all kinds of things today. We can even grade descriptive programs. We can grade essays today. We use 2 ways to do that. One approach is called AI assessment. We use machine learning technology where we train the machine learner with the first 100 essays against the professor's rubric. And then machine learning can grade the remaining essays, which can be, and the many results. There's a blog post by Professor Bonavac from the philosophy department of UT Austin that wrote a blog in the Chronicle of Higher Ed talking about how happy he was with the results of our AI grader. We also use peer grading, where students can grade each other, although the success of that is also mixed in some cases. But these are 2 experimental approaches that we are trying out.
And how do you build a sustainable financial model for Moocs?
A great question. How do you build a sustainable model for Moocs? So even though we are a nonprofit, we are really looking to see how do we build a sustainable business model. And so we have a few approaches to doing it. One of them is you can take the course for free. So this is like a freemium approach where you can go and get on the web, you can go and get free products, but then you pay for freemium models. Similarly, on edX, you can take the course for free. Education is free. We believe education should be like the air we breathe. However, if you want a credential, if you want a verified certificate, you pay a small fee, $50. Similarly, with the ASU Global Freshman Academy, you can get a complete first year of education for free. If you want credit from Arizona State University, it costs half in-state tuition. So our approach is the basic education is free, but can we charge for some of the value-added services? Perhaps we can charge for tutorial services. I met several of you that are forming companies to offer tutorial services. Maybe the course is free, but you want service or help from a tutor. You click a button, and boom, you get some help for a fee. So we're looking at these freemium models to build a sustainable business, and we're doing quite well so far.
Thank you, Anant. Let's give him a big hand.
Thank you all.
Thank you.